Alright, so what is the one warm-up exercise I learnt from Jaco Pastorius that I use every time I pick up the bass at the beginning of my practice routines? Well, I'm going to show you this short clip of the late great Jaco Pastorius to see if you can figure out what the exercise is.
What about the use of arpeggios in terms of developing fingerboard memorization?
Well, that's the greatest. You know, plus it's just about the hardest thing to play, in my opinion, on the bass. Like piano, for instance, it's easy. Mm-hmm. But on a bass guitar, that skipping, that's tough. One way that I teach cats is just 2 octave up the board like this. Okay?
Yes.
This way, your hand is moving every note. Mm-hmm. Okay,
as
every note
is playing it in position.
Yeah, as opposed to just going. Let's say.
In that position.
Yeah, as opposed to going. Yeah, you know, because you go. As opposed to doing like an easy skip, like. As opposed to doing that, or I go.
You get up much faster.
You can get there real fast. It's smoother, but it's tough, and it teaches you where the notes are on the fingerboard. You got to be thinking every note where, okay, and then what you do is you run that stuff. I don't even know if I can do it anymore. Wait a minute.
Hey, it's Jazz here from thebassmastermind.com. Welcome back to the channel. So I just played this short clip of Jaco talking about this exercise, and it opened up many doors for me, so I wanted to share it on this channel with you and break it down a little bit more. So this one exercise has improved my harmonic knowledge, my fretboard memorization, but the biggest benefit actually has been my ability to be able to get around the neck. So just my technical fluidity, I guess you could say, and just the ability to get around the instrument quickly. So this exercise is very simple as well, and we can really take the simple concept and make it anywhere from like a kind of beginner level right up to some more advanced stuff as well. So whatever level you are at, I think this video can help you. There'll be something in this video for you. So can you guess what this simple warm-up exercise is that I learned from Jaco Pastorius? It's just practicing triads. So today I'm going to show you the 3 reasons why triads are amazing, the only 4 triads you'll ever need to know in your life as a musician, and my favorite triadic exercise all the way from beginner to advance. And before I dive in, just to let you know that you can grab the PDF that I've specifically designed to go along with this lesson, with all the exercises and tab and notation. You can download it for free as a PDF just by clicking the link below this video. But before we start looking at this exercise, we actually need to know what triads are. Now, I have left timestamps in the description below, so feel free to skip around this video or skip this section if you're already familiar with triads. So a triad is a chord with 3 notes stacked in intervals of thirds. If that doesn't make any sense to you, then just let me break it down. So here's the note C. So we're going to call this C the root. We're going to call the C here. I'm playing it on the 3rd fret. We're going to call that the root. Now, if we wanted to create a major trichord from this note C here, we want to create a C major triad chord, we would need to add 2 more notes because a triad has 3 notes in the chord. So to do this, we're just going to stack 3rd intervals on top of this C. So if we added a major 3rd interval onto this C, we would actually get an E. That's a major 3rd interval. So we've got a C and an E, and then we need to stack 1 more 3rd interval on top of this E now. So we stack another 3rd interval. If we add a minor 3rd interval, we would actually get a G. So if we stack a minor 3rd interval on top of the E, we would actually get a G, which is really cool. So we've got a C and a major 3rd interval going up to an E, and then a minor 3rd interval going up to a G. And that's the theory behind a major triad. And what this all means is that if we take any note and we stack a major third and then a minor third, so let's take E flat. So if we take E flat, we stack a major third on top of the E flat, which is a G, and then a minor third on top of that G, those three notes, we can play the octave as well, are what's called a major triad, and in this case it's an E flat major triad. But if you use this formula, major third interval, minor third interval, that would create a major triad. Now you can stack minor or major third intervals, so this could be a minor third interval instead of a major third. You can stack whatever you want on top of the root and create different triads like minor, diminished, augmented, but we're going to talk more about that later. So why do I recommend practicing triads? Well, many years ago when I was studying at the Purcell School of Music here in the UK, I had a teacher called Ollie Hayhurst. Ollie is one of the most in-demand bass players on the London jazz scene at the moment. I shared a picture of him here, and I wanted to share this really quick story with you so I can give credit where credit's due, right? So one day I went for my weekly lesson with Ollie, and I sat down in the room, took my bass out the case, got all my notes and stuff, and I asked him a very simple question that I've been wanting to ask him all week. So I was thinking, what am I going to cover in my lesson this week? And I was thinking in my head, okay, I'm going to ask him this question. So I basically just said, hey Ollie, so what do you practice nowadays? And what exercises do you use or do you like to warm up? And as I was quite young at the time, I looked up to Ollie, and I knew he was one of the busiest bass players on the scene. So I wanted to know what Ollie was working on in his practice routine, thinking it must be this like secret complex thing that I'm missing in my bass playing, or this crazy exercise that I've never heard of. So I took out my notepad from my bass case with my pen ready to write down every word he said, thinking I'm missing something. This is a secret trick that I'm missing. But he just simply said, oh, I just warm up with triads. So I wrote down triads on my notepad, and then I looked at it and I thought, is that really it? And Ollie could see that I kind of looked confused. Once I wrote down triads, I kind of looked up and I was expecting more, but he just stopped there. And he kind of went on to explain why practicing triads as a bass player, especially as a bass player, is one of the best things you could ever do for your playing. And here's kind of what he said. So like Jaco said right at the beginning of this lesson, practicing triads is a great way to develop your bass guitar technique. And the reason why, there's a few reasons. There's really three, I guess. String skipping, position shifting, barring. And this is because there are large intervals between the notes. So you can see here, if we take just a C major triad, you have to kind of shift quite a lot, and you have to, if you want to go up the neck, you're going to have to be doing a lot of position shifting, string skipping in this plucking hand, barring as well, so I'm barring that G there. If I was just to play a C major triad starting on the low E, I'm barring there, and then I'm shifting, and then G, and then maybe another position shift. You really have to know what fingers to play, and what fingering you're using, what position shift you're doing, where you're going to bar, just because of these really large intervals with triads, because there's obviously only three notes. Another reason that Ollie gave, and I've found myself, is as bass players, I think it's always good to practice fundamental harmony, whether we're playing pop, blues, rock, jazz, or just about any other style of music. And I don't believe that you can ever stop working on the fundamentals. Actually, I feel like nowadays I work more on the fundamentals than I used to. And especially for us bass players, as we are in a supportive role, and our job is to provide that strong foundation, like rhythmically and harmonically as well. So for example, you could just play a great walking blues bass line with just triads. You can come up with countless cool bass lines just using simple fundamental harmony. And as Michael Jordan once said, get the fundamentals down and the level of everything you do will rise. And I feel like that goes for everything, whether it's, I don't know, working out or playing an instrument, or in this case, basketball. And really the third reason that I think triads are great to practice is practicing triads all over the fingerboard is just amazing for fingerboard memorization, and I believe practicing triads all over the fingerboard, just like I was kind of doing then, and just taking just major triads even, and just kind of trying to get over the whole neck here, and find different ways to do it, you know, and different fingerings, and I'm kind of exploring as well as, you know, practicing it in a regimented way. But I think just that one concept or exercise has been really key in my progression as a bass player, and that's why I want to do this whole lesson about it. So you really have to know where the notes are to be able to do, say, a 2-octave triad. So if you're going to do an F major triad, 2 octaves, so you start on here, okay, you're going to go here, you got to really think about where you're going to position shift. There's a few ways to do it, right? So you can go from here, then you could go to here, and then you can go, I don't know, there, but you can go a different way coming down. Maybe you can go to there. You just really have to know where all the notes are. And what I found is that most of the time trying to play simple things well is way harder than trying to play complicated stuff okay. Don't overlook the simple things, don't overlook the fundamentals. Okay, now in music, there are actually only 4 triads you'll ever need to know. Do you know what they are? I'm going to tell you. So we've got a major triad. Well, we're going to do everything in C today because it's the nicest key. So we've got a major triad, which is C, E, and G. That's a C major triad, sorry. And then we've got a minor triad, and in C, that is C, E flat, G. We'll break down these triads a bit more in a second. I'll give you some exercises. But that's the second triad, minor triad. And then we've got an augmented triad. Bit weird, right? And then we've got a diminished triad. And the amazing thing, and the reason why I really stress this point, is because that's all you need to know. Like, as far as triads are concerned, in Western music, pop, jazz, blues, all of that stuff, that's all you need to know. You just need to know 4 triads. If you can get these 4 triads down, 2 of them are a lot less common as well. Like augmented, diminished, you hardly come across them, especially if you're playing like pop and stuff. If you can get your major and minor triads down, you're sorted. So that's why I want to just kind of stress that point, that these are the 4 triads you're ever going to need to know in your music career. Major triad, minor triad, augmented triad, diminished triad. Now earlier we looked at the major triad and used a major third interval plus a minor third interval to create a major triad. But instead of doing this for every single one of the 4 triads, because that would just make this video super long, I just want to relate everything back to the major scale. So I'm sure you're familiar with just a C major scale. We're just going to take a C major scale and I'm going to teach you all of the 4 triads. We're going to break it down. I've got the tab and the notation as well. So for a major triad, you could just think of it as the first note, or like the root. So root, third, and then the 5th note of the scale. Play these notes together and you get a lovely, here you go, you get a lovely triad chord. By the way, if you want to download the PDF worksheet for this lesson with all the triads that I'm going to show you and all the exercises I'm about to show you written out in notation, and tab as well, it will be inside my free Facebook group for bass players. So you just click the link below and you can become part of what's called the Bass Master family. It's a really cool community. You can come and hang out, and you'll also get access to free online courses that I've created, bass lessons, there's some PDFs, resources, and it's all free. And I occasionally do some fun live Q&As in there as well. Jump in, the link is in the description below this video. Anyway, back to these triads. If you take a C major scale, we're just relating all these triads back to the major scale, right? The C major scale for now, but we'll do it in all 12 keys in a sec. Now, all you would do to have a minor triad is just take the first note, and then you take the third note, but flatten it. So you've got an E flat there, and then you have the 5th, which is the G. So if I play these notes together, like this, that is a minor triad. Now, to create a diminished triad, this is the 3rd triad you're going to ever need to know in your life. A diminished triad, you need to flatten the 3rd and the 5th. So let's get the major triad and base it off there. So we've got the major triad, flatten the 3rd. So that'll take an E to an E flat, and flatten the 5th. So that's a G to the G flat. Cool sound. So if we're relating all these triads again back to the major scale, you would just have the first note, the flattened third, and the flattened fifth. And again, if you play these notes together, I'll probably play it like this. It's a bit of a stretch, but that's a diminished triad there. Now the fourth triad is probably the rarest triad you'll ever come across. That's why I left it till last. But it's worth knowing because there's only 4 of them you need to know, right? So all you do here with an augmented triad is take a major triad, but instead of playing that fifth, you just sharpen the fifth. So now we've got a C, E, and G sharp. There's a couple of ways to play this. I mean, you could play it kind of like that, or you can play it like that. Cool, so if we relate this triad back to the major scale, you would now have the first note of the scale, you'd have the major third, or just the third, and you'd have the sharpened fifth. If you play these notes together, you get a cool, like kind of mysterious, augmented triad chord. So there are only 4 triads, and 2 of them aren't really used much anyway. Now on this channel, you'll know if you've watched my videos before, I always want you to walk away with something from one of these lessons, with some practical things that you can actually apply to your practice routine, some exercises that you can use. So here are some of my favorite triadic exercises, right from beginner to advanced. I'm going to give you 3. I'm going to give you a beginner exercise, intermediate, and advanced triadic exercise. And you can find these exercises written in tab and notation in today's PDF worksheet. The link is in the description. So if you're a beginner bass player, exercise number 1 is probably going to be great for you. So exercise number 1 is just to play all 4 triads in all 12 keys. So all we need to do is just take those 4 triads. So we'll do it in C first. We got C, major triad. We'll play up to the octave as well. So we've got a C major triad there. We're going to play the major triad in all 12 keys. So you could go C, and then F, and then B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. Let's see if we can do it. And we're back. There we go. Cool. So that's in all 12 keys. Obviously, do it way slower than that. I was just joking around. And then what you would do after that is you would play all your minor triads. There's a couple of ways to do the fingering for this one. Depends if you're going to go back up to that higher minor third or the E flat up here. And, that's in C, and then you would do the same thing in F. Get comfortable on all 12 keys, and then you would do the same thing with the diminished triad, same thing with the augmented triad, and that's a couple of months work there. So that's exercise number 1, playing all 4 triads in 12 keys. Now exercise number 2, if you're more of an intermediate bass player, then exercise number 2 is to play all 4 triads in 12 keys, but now we're going to start in some different positions. So we're going to try and mix it up, and generally there's like 3 positions normally that you can play these triads in. Depending on where you are on the neck, I should say. But say you're playing just a C, or you're playing in the key of C. So you could play the C major triad 3 different ways, I guess, from this C here. So now I'm playing it here with this C. So if I play just second finger, starting on the second finger here, so second finger. You could also play this triad starting with the first finger. So you can go, maybe if I turn around a bit. So you could also play it with the 4th finger like this. It's a bit harder, that one. That's going to push your technique, and that's exactly why we're doing this, right? We're trying to practice all elements of our technique, harmonic knowledge, fretboard memorization. You're going to need to know where these notes are. So it's really, the second exercise is just expanding on the first exercise, and then the final exercise is to try and play triads in 2 octaves. So this is for more advanced bass players. Exercise number 3 is just to play all 4 triads in all 12 keys in 2 octaves, and I'm going to start just in F major this time, just because it's right down here, and it's the easiest one probably to start with this exercise. So instead of doing C, I mean, you could do C, that's C there. Let's just do it in F. So here, we've got an F major triad. So that's 2 octaves. So we've gone from this F to this F. So, and there's a number of different ways you can do this. And just kind of experiment with that, see how it feels. Practice it in a number of different fingerings, seeing how different ways you can get across the neck, right? Okay, cool. And like I said, practicing triads is awesome to build up your technique. But if you're really looking to take your bass guitar technique, specifically bass guitar technique, to the next level, I actually have a complete free 7-day technique course right now here on YouTube waiting for you. So if you click the video that you can see on the screen now, it will take you to this free technique course where over the next 7 days, I'll break down everything from muting to developing speed to raking to the best right hand and left hand exercises so you can accelerate your bass guitar technique. So click the video on the screen to check it out.